What's up, everybody? This is A7X Fan Ben, and welcome to a video battle report. This one is for a 3-player 60-point game that was played on the final day of Dice Tower West in Las Vegas 2024 back on March 10th. And it was myself, Captain Randy, and a new player named Chuck. And we got started. We used mostly regular rules with a few house rules. I'll put a link to the Las Vegas house rules in the description. And the main ones we used there were that islands didn't have to be 3L to 6L apart. And so we did the setup. So 9 islands total, 3 home islands, 6 wild islands, 2 terrain placed per player. So we ended up with 2 whirlpools, 2 fog banks, 1 reef, and 1 Sargasso Sea. And then Randy rolled to go first. So he placed the first island in terrain. And then we went clockwise from there. So the turn order was Captain Randy, then Chuck, then me. So Randy's fleet, so there we are before the game. Randy's fleet was mostly Spanish. He had the limited edition San Cristobal, the one that has the same action twice, or born leader keyword built into it, along with 5 or 6 crew aboard. Banshee's Cry with a couple crew. Morning Star, the limited edition Spanish ship, and 3 crew on that one. Cor du Leon with 1 crew, and La Monarca with a Master Bianco board. And I used a Saber fleet that I'll put in the description below as well. It's regularly supposed to be used in a 40-point game, potentially not necessarily a death match. It's kind of just a fun 40-point fleet, and not really meant to be too competitive. But since we were playing 60 and there was a new player, I took out the +5 on Jolly Mon and did not use the Hag of Tortuga. And so that was going to be 44 points for the Saber combo. So the Saber had a pretty intense gold capturing mix aboard with Bonnie Peel and Jack Hawkins from Crimson Coast. The CC version of Hawkins that has same action twice and crew can't be eliminated unless the ship sinks. And then Jordan Dumas from Ocean's Edge to give re-roll to that same action twice, but especially to allow crew of any nationality to use their abilities on the ship. That's how the pirate crew were able to use their abilities. And then a helmsman. So that was 44 points. And then to get to 60, I just grabbed La Cleopatra, who I had in my extras box that I brought to the convention to give ships to new players, so I could lend out fleets so they could get started quickly. And that was in the box, so I just added it just to keep it French. And then I had 16 points left after the 44-point Saber combo. So those 16 points was Cleopatra, which is 12 points plus a helmsman and a navigator. So those were the 2 crew on that ship. And then Chuck had English, and he picked up a bunch of big ships. I helped him out with the crew selections. He had 50 points of ships, 10 crew. So it was Aberdeen Baron empty, HMS Goliath with a captain and helmsman, HMS Sultan with helmsman and explorer, and then HMS Burma empty. So it was a relatively casual game, and obviously it was kind of a mix of a new player and then Randy and I playing our fleets that we wanted to use. It was kind of an interesting situation in the convention because people, you don't know if people are going to show up or not, or like if the number of players is going to be accurate to like what the event page looked like. So in this case, initially this looked like it might be a 4-player game, but then we ended up with 3, but it was still pretty fun and went pretty good overall. So I'll get into the gameplay here. So Randy went first and split up his fleet. Basically all the ships went in completely different directions. San Cristobal did get her same action twice, and she sped off to the east. Just for quick and easy reference, most of these pictures are from my perspective at the gaming table. So the default is going to be north up. So then east would be the right, south down, and west to the left. So Chuck split his fleet into two halves, basically. Goliath and Sultan are going west, and then Aberdeen and Burma going east. And then I went and immediately I kind of pre-measured, and it looked like I might be able to hit one of Randy's ships. And I knew I wanted to capture gold because this fleet, it doesn't really have much traditional gold getting capability really at all. So I knew I'd have to steal some gold, steal some crew with Bonnie Peel in order to get treasure. So, or at least gold point treasure. So Cleopatra got lucky, created a trade current with her navigator, and then I got same action twice with Jack Hawkins right away. and that allowed me to move LSS with the first move action and then come down south after hitting the trade current with the second move action and slam the Morningstar. And it kind of continued my luck on the previous day in games against Randy was abnormally good. Normally it's not that great, especially on cannon rolls, but my luck this weekend at Dice Tower West was kind of some of the best I've ever seen in my playing history of Pirates. And it continued here on this final game of the convention because Saber hit 4 for 4, and then the ram roll from the switchblade attack took out the Morningstar's final mast, and then I won the boarding party and stole the Morningstar's highest point crew, which was the limited edition version of Dominic Freda. So a very successful first turn for the Saber, taking out one of the big Spanish ships and stealing a crew. Cleopatra was going to be kind of limited because she only had one cargo space open with helmsman and navigator aboard, and of course you have to use your move action to place a trade current with the navigator. So she was just sitting at home generating a current so Saber could go off and do her thing. So that's the first round, and then there's a close-up of the Saber slashing up the Morningstar. It's kind of a running joke now that almost every time Randy plays the Morningstar against me, I end up like capturing it or something. So there's kind of a running joke that since I don't have the LE Morningstar, if I keep capturing it, I think I should just play for keeps and actually have it. But anyway, I'll probably just make my own so I don't have to spend $500-600 on a one ship. So Saber, with that successful switchblade attack, got the French off to a good start and intercepted the Morningstar before she could reach that island in the west. And then on the second round, San Cristobal came through the whirlpool, but then there was Randy hadn't pre-measured, so I was able to, I basically got really lucky again. So the navigator hit and same action twice hit. So then I pre-measured knowing those rolls, and I saw that I could hit San Cristobal as well. And I've been burned sometimes in the past when I don't pre-measure from whirlpools. So I wanted to make sure I hit the San Cristobal early because she was the biggest threat to the Saber in this game, given her same action twice ability and how fast she can go and things like that. So the Saber did almost the same thing on the second turn as she did on the first turn. So with the trade current bonus, she moved a total speed of LSS LS, and that just barely got me to have all 4 cannons in range. And I was also able to ram twice, once with the bow and once with the blades, because they're considered separate rams and boards if you're able to make contact with both. So I think I shot 3 for 4 and then did a ram damage, something like that. And then I was able to win the boarding party. So Bonnie Peel captured the highest point crew on the LE Morningstar, or on the LE San Cristobal, I should say, and captured Pavone E. Miranda, so a 6-point captain and reroll crew. So at this point, Bonnie Peel already had 10 points of gold captures aboard. The problem was I think the gold in play was going to be worth more than any amount of crew I could capture. But this was a huge moment in the game that really crippled Randy's fleet, especially in terms of the combat capability, because the San Cristobal was his main fighter. And it also meant that Saber would soon become the main threat in the game, because she was the only ship remaining after that would be capable of double actions. So Saber was exerting her dominance with the help of her pretty interesting crew setup that I'll probably play again, because it's probably my favorite. It was already kind of my favorite Saber crew combo or crew complement. The original combo uses Stephen Decatur from the Americans for crew protect and same action twice, but he's 7 points, and I realized a week before this game that I could swap him out for Jack Hawkins in order to save a point, which actually allows the fleet to be played at the 40-point limit, because then you can have 39 points of crew on Saber before Dumas is added, and then you could add Jollyman and Hag of Tortuga for 1, gets you to 40, and then with the +5 you bring in Dumas. But in this case I wasn't using +5, so it just works out, saves a point. So in this case it essentially just allowed me to use a navigator on the Cleopatra instead of maybe oarsman or explorer, I guess you could say. So, and that actually came in really handy because I needed these trade currents to pull off these attacks. So my luck was holding really true throughout the first 2 rounds. It would decline a bit after that, but here, first 2 rounds, basically was able to cripple both Spanish 5 masters, capture their highest point crew, and got lucky with both the navigator and same action twice on both turns. So this one is actually looking east. So I think this shows basically through the end of the second round is what it looks like. So Morningstar did still have a helmsman and oarsman, so she was able to start rowing back home at S+S. And Cleopatra, of course, still at home, generated a second trade current, so the Saber could hit the San Cristobal. Looks like Monarcha has docked in the north, and the English have docked and started exploring. Sultan took, I think, 2 coins, and then I think Goliath came in after and used the explored token to take the other 2 coins from that island to help out Chuck's gold running efforts. Coeur du Lion is not quite docked at that southeastern island, so she was just maybe a few millimeters short, basically. And then Banshee's Cry is about to round Earth in the southwest there. So that's the action through the first 2 rounds. And then I actually sank the San Cristobal because I thought it was going to take too long to take out her crew with Bonnie Peel. So I assumed she had an oarsman aboard. So I knew. So Randy, I think Randy shot and missed with San Cristobal not getting her same action twice. If she'd gotten the same action twice, he probably would have popped through the whirlpool and then gone from the other one back home to repair. But since she didn't get the same action twice, he decided to keep me pinned since I had rammed at the bow, unlike against the Morningstar, and was able to shoot, but he did miss. And then Saber, I was thinking about either capturing the crew with Bonnie Peel or maybe trying to capture the ship, but that would probably get more complicated. So the problem was the rest of the crew probably wouldn't be quite as high point, and also I didn't want to kind of delay Saber from getting after other opponents or influencing the rest of the game by focusing on San Cristobal too much. So I decided to just sink her. And then the Cleopatra is finally given a move action. She moved a little bit south, and that was kind of a dual purpose. She kind of got better positioning, and then she was also starting to think about raiding the Spanish home island because Monarcha had round Earth with gold, and so was coming back home with some treasure. And then Coeur du Lion was able to dock and explore. She had an explorer, so she grabbed a couple coins. And then the English have reached the far eastern island at the top of the frame there, where it looks like Aberdeen Baron and HMS Burma have combined to drain the island of all its coins. And then here's another close-up shot of Saber taking out the LE San Cristobal. So a pretty climactic moment in the game, and kind of showed that my luck was holding true. At this point, it started to decline a bit because I started to miss same action twice and things like that. So in the middle of the game, my luck kind of decreased a bit. So here we see that Randy has repaired the Morningstar. Monarcha has gotten home with treasure. Coeur du Lion and Banshee's Cry are both returning with treasure as well. So Banshee's Cry round Earth to the northwestern island at the top left there and grabbed 3 out of the 4 coins. She did have an explorer and an oarsman aboard. And Saber, after her assault on the Spanish, she's starting to head towards home. I wanted to get those gold captures home because even though gold on ships counts in a multiplayer game, that wouldn't apply to Bonnie Peel's captures because they're only worth gold when unloaded at your home island. So we weren't anywhere close to being done yet, but I wanted to make periodic trips back to my home island with the gold captures just in case if we reached an end game condition. I wanted to make sure any gold captures would count towards my score. So she's headed home with those 2 crew, Freda and Miranda, that were worth 10 points total or 10 gold total. So Sultan has come back home, deposited treasure. I think Goliath had as well. I think she had dropped off too, and then she's headed south, possibly towards this other gold. And then Aberdeen Baron and Burma are headed back home as well towards the English home island. And so I did dock Saber home. She unloaded her crew worth gold. Cleopatra, she tried to generate a trade current at one point to put in between my home island, the French home island, and the Spanish home island. And that was because I had measured from the southern tip of my home island to Randy's home island was a little bit farther than L+S, just a little bit. So if it was L+S or shorter, Cleopatra could theoretically move from my home island to Randy's in one move action and steal a coin with her home island raiding ability. But I missed that trade current roll. And then he redocked Morningstar, partly to kind of block a potential home island raid and also to provide a little bit of like defense logistic strategy in case Cleopatra was going to come in. So I pivoted, and Cleopatra instead turned to port, went through the whirlpool, came out the other one because this island was actually unexplored. So this one still has all 4 coins on it. Coeur du Lion is almost home with treasure. Banshee's Cry similarly. Monarcha had dropped off her gold, and then she headed out probably in search of this. And also when she moved there, Cleopatra I think was still here, so she was able to kind of be in ramming range of Cleopatra while also being within docking distance of this other island. So, and Goliath, HMS Goliath, is now docked at that island, but she doesn't have an explorer, so she'll have to wait a turn if she wants to explore the island. The English are almost home with their own treasure from the Far East. Aberdeen Baron and Burma both coming back home, and then Sultan is headed northeast. And we'd see later on she'd be going round Earth to try to get that last coin from the northwest. So, all right. So Morningstar set sail again. Core docked home treasure. Banshee's Cry docked home treasure. So at this point, Randy's treasure stack was looking the best. And it looked like I probably actually had the least because Chuck was able to dock home his English ships and get more gold as well. So even though I had 10 gold from the 2 captures, I didn't have anything else. So that's partly why you see Cleopatra going for that gold right there. And Morningstar was going for that gold as well. So, and she was still weak from the Saber's first attack earlier in the game. So Saber went after her again and dismasted her and stole her helmsman. So that left her with just an oarsman, I believe. And I think I may have, it looks like I might be ramming twice here. I think I stole both actually. So I think I left her derelict and stole both the helmsman and the oarsman, which if I brought them back home with Bonnie Peel, they'd be worth 3 gold total from the 2 points of the helmsman and 1 point from the oarsman. So at this point, Saber has exerted total dominance over the Spanish 5 masters in Randy's fleet, but Cleopatra doesn't have an explorer, so she would be pretty slow. It took her a full move action just to get through the whirlpool, and then another one to approach the island, and then she didn't have enough movement to dock, so then she didn't have explorer, so she's kind of slow to get going on that treasure. And then actually we've got another situation in the north where Goliath actually was able to get more guns in range than I expected. She was kind of docked at a weird spot on the island where it didn't look like she'd have good range on Monarcha, but even after Monarcha used her ability to move SOA from the island after loading that island's last 2 coins, Goliath was able to kind of go around the island a little bit and then still get 4 cannons in range and was able to hit Monarcha twice. I think she shot 2 for 2. And then I told Chuck about how, you might want to capture the ship. So we kind of explained to him like the pros and cons of capturing it or trying to bring the gold back or whatever, things like that. So then he stopped shooting, left it derelict. And then I went with Saber or whatever. And then we go to the next round, and Goliath has intercepted. Core was on her way out there, potentially to help Monarcha or to go to a different island. Goliath blew her out of the water, sank her quickly. And then Monarcha, Randy tried to scuttle Monarcha, but the scuttle roll failed, which gave Chuck a little more time to potentially capture the ship. So, and then here we've got Banshee's Cry heading south, potentially to round Earth. HMS Sultan has round Earth into the northwest. And then at this point, I was starting to see how much agency I would have over the end of the game, which is one of my favorite ways to try to win, is try to capture ships as the game goes along and kind of exploit the agency that you have over the end game conditions and end game triggers. So at this point, I've captured the Morningstar. I had plans to repair her and then use her to get some of that gold, because even though Cleopatra is docked there, she still has to explore the island. And we also didn't use unique treasures in this game because we had a brand new player. If we had, I would probably be a little more hesitant to explore with Cleopatra because I wouldn't want to lose your crew to play or missionary. But all 3 players, we all went into the game knowing that there were no unique treasures in play. So Cleopatra, she would take a turn to explore. And the other problem was she only had 1 cargo space open with helmsman and navigator. I could dump them, but it would slow me down getting home potentially if I dumped the helmsman. So I'd probably only want to dump the navigator. So I had plans to use Morningstar to get some of that gold, but I was also thinking about how I only had 10 gold. and I knew I was almost definitely in last. So I also had plans to use Cleopatra to raid somebody's home island, probably Randy's, because he was weaker at this point and his home island was closer than the English home island up in the northeast. So, so I had some plans to use Cleopatra to home island raid while keeping the game alive and making sure that we did not reach an endgame condition, where in this case, either 2 out of the 3 players were completely unlimited and could not give future move actions, or all gold would be unloaded to home islands. So kind of trying to extend the game to make sure I would have enough gold. So that pretty much sums up that situation there. So English, Aberdeen Baron and Burma are both kind of headed southwest, and Goliath has taken control of Monarcha. So she captured her, and then I think Chuck, so we explained to Chuck some of the stuff about how he'd probably want to use the Monarcha, her action for the turn, and he did. He used her action for the turn to explore and give the coins to Goliath, and also temporarily transferred Master Bianco to the Goliath as well, in case Goliath wanted to kind of sacrifice Master Bianco if she lost a boarding party, things like that. So, and then in the northwest, Sultan has reached and explored the northwest island and its final coin. And then Banshee's Cry is putting a little pressure on Cleopatra at that island. Cleopatra has explored, and I found 6522. Those were the 4 coins on that island, so a pretty good island overall with 15 total treasure. So because the 6-5 were pretty good, I dumped the navigator during the explore action to load, I guess, the 5 basically. So she would have 6-5 and a helmsman aboard. Those were her 3 cargo at this point, so I had to dump the navigator to make room. And I knew she'd probably get that trade current on the way home, but I was also thinking about ramming Banshee's Cry if she got too close. So, and then Saber, as you can see, has docked home her latest captures, which are the helmsman and oarsman from the Morningstar. And the Morningstar has used her action to repair 1 mast. And that brought me to 13 total gold, all from Bonnie Peel captures. So, but I was still probably in last, so I knew I needed to make up the difference. So this is where I was able to kind of see my path to victory towards the end here. So Saber came over, smashed up Banshee's Cry, and that pretty much took Randy out of it at this point. So once her helmsman was gone, he didn't have any ships left or future move actions to give. So then we were down to 2 players. Cleopatra has touched the partially repaired Morningstar, and Morningstar would, I think on the next turn, she would explore to take her treasure. So the idea was that Cleopatra needed cargo space to raid Randy's home island to get me more gold, and Morningstar had all the cargo she needed. She had all 6 available to take both the Cleopatra's 2 coins she had loaded from this island, and Morningstar could get the other 2 coins from that island. So, but you'll see I think I did it slightly differently. So, and then Chuck was headed home with pretty much his whole fleet. So, because Sultan was coming in via Round Earth from the northeast, and then his ships were headed home to make sure they got Monarcha back. So, okay, I think that mostly does it. And then here, these coins are face up because it was becoming apparent that the crew capture full card crew would potentially cause issues with like spacing on the table if there were actions near my home island. So for now, I just took them out and put face up coins worth those crews value instead. So, and then here, just a close up of Saber taking yet another enemy out of the game. So she was just a beast. I think she didn't lose any boarding parties, and her cannons were pretty accurate. So she had a ton of agency and control over this game, and it was pretty much the most valuable ship, I would say, of the day. So Saber, that crew combo, you got to be a little careful with it not to get hit early, and you want to make sure you don't get into battles you don't know if you can win. But she was really effective. It was a little bit risky going after San Cristobal, but I was able to hit enough times and do ram damage to take San Cristobal down to just 1 mast, which was pretty effective. So, all right. So next up, we've got me finally raiding Randy's home island after planning it for a little while. So I knew I didn't really have time to repair Cleopatra's mast. So I think it looks like she kept her coins from the Morningstar. I think, and then unloaded them at home. So I think that's 6-5 on my home island face down. And then she went to raid Randy's home island, and I knew I would be going in for multiple coins. And Morningstar has gone west to dock at and grab the last 2 coins from that island. And Morningstar was kind of like trying to be used as a game extender of sorts here, because she had some of the last treasure in play, because Sultan would be docking at home, the Monarcha got home and repaired. So Chuck was kind of done with his like gold exploratory efforts. So Morningstar was kind of trying to play keep away with those 2 treasures worth 4 gold. And I was thinking about maybe going to that fog bank, but I didn't really need to. So she was just going to kind of make sure I didn't bring that home too early, to give Cleopatra time to raid and make up the gold score difference, which at this point was getting pretty close, if I remember right. Because I think I captured Banshee's Cry, her crew as well. I want to say I got both of them. If they were 1 point each, I think I had 15 or so points from gold captures at this point, plus the 6-5 from Cleopatra. So I think I already had 26. So I was already doing decently in the standings, but I didn't know that. That's all just in hindsight, knowing that the final scores I know now. So at the time, I didn't really know. I kind of assumed that at least one of the other 2 players still had more than me, so I had to make that assumption. And so Cleopatra went in for a raid. Saber was kind of protecting her, and of course there was both a time limit on the convention where we had to be out of the one of the open gaming halls by like 3 p.m. and we weren't really too pressed for time, but there was a little bit of a time limit there. And also Chuck, of course, still had his English Armada, and then they started sailing straight towards me, which made sense. We kind of explained to him that like to prevent me from getting more gold, he'd almost have to like try to protect Randy's home island or take out Cleopatra, things like that. So, and Banshee's Cry, I captured her as well, and Saber towed her home. She's repaired, and I did that partially to support Morningstar in her efforts to keep the game alive with gold still on ships, and also for the units in play. That's not really why I captured her originally, but eventually I would try to get more units in play than Chuck for the potential tiebreaker on gold. So Chuck came in with his English Armada, and I will admit it was a little bit, he didn't have like double action crew, so I was kind of at an advantage, both in experience and the crew setups. But here I got lucky again. So this was another pivotal moment where I think Saber started this round, docked at my home island actually, and then I got a same action twice from Jack Hawkins at the perfect time yet again, and I was able to slam the Burma, and I think I captured her helmsman and bladed her, dismasted the ship. Second action, I moved and bladed the Goliath as well, and she lost 4 out of her 5 masts, and I captured her highest point crew, which was the captain. So another just massive pivotal moment for the Saber and her amazing crew complement, with Bonnie Peel capturing 2 crew worth 5 gold total and taking out 8 masts from the main 2 English like gunship threats. So Aberdeen Baron was untouched, but not quite as big of a threat, especially compared to Goliath, because Goliath's got that +1 kin rolls against the French as well. So huge attack by Saber, devastates the English fleet. And this was all to buy time for Cleopatra, because she was still raiding Randy's home island, because I knew I wanted to take more than 1 coin. So Cleopatra, with her navigator on the wild island, she was able to have a second card space open. So she went in for another raid. So she was able to take 2 coins in 1 trip. And then that trade current you see there was actually placed by the Morningstar. So per the house rules, generic crew can use their abilities on ships of any nationality. So I had Morningstar pick up the navigator, because I knew Morningstar wouldn't be busy anyway, because she was just trying to keep away at that wild island and just keep the gold in play, so the game wouldn't end until I was satisfied with the home island raids and how much gold I had come away with. So she used the navigator when she was docked at the wild island to create a trade current for Cleopatra. So now at this point, going back to what I said earlier in the game, I wanted to place that trade current early on, but I missed the roll. But here, now it would allow Cleopatra to move from Randy's home island to my home island with 1 move action, because Cleopatra still had the helmsman, so that would give her the plus S with the trade current to go LSS towards my home island. So here the Saber has come under fire from the English. So Aberdeen Baron was able, I think she hit, I want to say she hit 2 out of 2, or maybe Goliath shot 1 for 1, and then Aberdeen Baron was 1 for 2. So Aberdeen Baron was able to get her second shot in range against the blades of the Saber. And then, so that took her down to 2 mass. Monarcha, I think, failed the ram. And that was pretty much it. English, that had already been devastated by the Saber's attack on my turn, so they weren't able to do too much damage and dismass the ship. They would have had to get pretty lucky to take out all 4. So, and at this point, so I went home with Saber. I think she got another same action twice. So another clutch roll from Jack Hawkins. It may have been the re-roll from Jordan Dumas in this case. But either way, Saber was able to return home, unload her two crew gold captured from Bonnie Peel, giving me another 5 gold. And then Cleopatra came home as well with 2 stolen coins from Captain Randy and his defenseless home island. And those coins were 1 and 2 because the loser chooses which coins are lost in a home island raid. I do like the house rule that where the home island raider, the choice is random. Like you mix up the coins or you roll a d6 or whatever to determine which coin you get in a home island raid. But we weren't using that house rule in this game, so the loser chooses. So Cleopatra was only going to get the worst coins from Randy's home island. And that's part of why I went back for more. Because that 3 gold, I still didn't know if I had enough. So I couldn't count on that 3 gold being enough to make the difference. And the English are still charging ahead a little bit, and Sultan has kind of left the home island and is heading southwest. But Saber has gotten away and is now can't be shot at her home island. There was a chance, if Burma wasn't in the way, there was a chance that the English would maybe be able to ram her 3 times in my home island. I don't think they had quite the movement, but we talked to Chuck about that. But it looks like Burma was going to be kind of in the way. And then as soon as you tow her out of the way, you only have 2 ships potentially left to ram, but you really want 3 so you could capture the Saber. And because if either of the ram rolls is a 1, they get stuck, they get pinned to Saber, and then I can just keep them pinned there and take out their mast without being able to get shot at. So, all right, so let's see. So yeah, Cleopatra went back for more coins, and then the English, some of those ships that they had intact from the previous battle, the Aberdeen Baron and Monarcha, they went through the Whirlpool to try to counter the Morning Star, and then as a result, she moved south to try to get out of their ramming range, while Cleopatra went back for more treasure. And Banshee's Cry, I think Banshee's Cry just kind of came home just to get out of harm's way. She wasn't as useful as I kind of expected at the end of the game, but I just didn't really need that ship, I guess. Saber has repaired. Burma is just derelict sitting there. Goliath went home, and then Sultan was kind of playing a home defense role for the English at this point in case Cleopatra tried to raid their home island instead of the Spanish home island. So, and then this shows pretty much the end of it. So Goliath went home and repaired, and then Morning Star was able to stay out of the ramming range of Aberdeen Baron and Monarcha. And Cleopatra, eventually, we were getting pretty late on time here. Like we only had like 20 minutes probably before we had to clean up. And so I came home with Cleopatra to dock home final treasure from the raids. And before that, I captured the Burma and brought her back. I think Hawkins got another same action twice. I may have been hitting it like at least 50% of the time with the reroll, maybe more in this game. So I went out, grabbed Burma, and then she was within S+S of the home island, so I was able to tow her back right away. And I partly did that because I saw the units in play favored Chuck. He had 5 ships, I had 4, with Burma still in his fleet. So I went out, grabbed Burma, captured her. So just in case there would be a tie on gold, I went out and grabbed Burma so that I would have the 5-4 units in play advantage. So, and then I think the last action of the game, Morning Star finally came home, docked home her 4 gold that was originally in the west there that Cleopatra found a while ago. So the final scores, I won with 42 gold, and then Chuck came in second with 25, and then Randy had 18. So the 4 coins I stole from Randy or 1, 2, 2, 3. So it was overall an 8 gold swing. So it was actually, it was not as close as I thought it was going to be. Based on the big treasure stacks they had accumulated throughout the game, I thought I needed all that home island rating gold, but it turned out I didn't. So I think it would have been, if we take 8 from mine and add 8 to Randy's, I think I would have beat Randy 34 to 26 without that. So it shows that Bonnie Peel's captures were really quite important here, because they netted me around 16 gold, because I got Miranda, Freda, and then a bunch of generics for around 16, and then plus the 6-5 that the Cleopatra found on that Western Island was already 27. So, and then Chuck had a bunch of gold, but a lot of them were lower values, so they're not quite as good. So overall, I think Saber captured around 8 crew, because then I had the 5 from the English generics towards the end of the game. So you can see them at the bottom a tiny bit. Freda, Santana. Oh yeah, it wasn't Miranda. That's my bad. So it was actually Roberto Santana that I captured from the Ellie San Cristobal. Randy did have Miranda on board, but I'm pretty sure it would go to loser chooses if there's a tie in which crew, both crew are worth 6 points. So he gave me Santana. So my bad on that. And then, so a 4 and a 6. And then, yeah, helmsman, oarsman from the Morning Star. And then I grabbed 2 from Banshee's Cry. So I think it was something, it might have been 8 crew captured by Bonnie Peel. I'm thinking it's like 4 Spanish, 2 pirate, 2 English. So either way, she had a field day and was just dominant. So once I took out San Cristobal, Saber kind of didn't really have like proper competition the rest of the game. Goliath could have been a pretty big threat, but Jack Hawkins was so effective with same action twice that I didn't really have to face Goliath in a tough situation. So I was able to hit her first and take her down to just 1 mast, at which point her cannon bonus against the French didn't really matter much. So overall, it was a good game. We all enjoyed it. We got to use our ships in different ways. I was really happy to use my fleet kind of to the fullest extent, and was able to use all 4 crew on Saber really effectively. I was able to use the Navigator to help out the Saber, and then Cleopatra was able to use home island rating to help out my gold score at the end as well. So overall, it was a fun time and a nice conclusion to Dice Tower West 2024. It was the 5th and final game of Pirate CSG I played there. So feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Thanks again for watching, and stay tuned for more Pirate CSG videos.